At just 20 years old, he became king. Before 30, he ruled the largest empire the world had ever seen. He never lost a battle. He crossed deserts, mountains, and the edge of the known world. But this is not just the story of a conqueror. It is the story of a boy taught by Aristotle, driven by destiny, and consumed by ambition. How did Alexander reshape history in just 13 years? And what did his greatness ultimately cost him? This is Alexander the Great.
You've heard the name, right? Alexander the Great. It just echoes through history. But what's really behind it? This isn't just some boring story about battles and borders. It's about a guy who kind of blurred the line between a man and a myth, all because he had this burning ambition to literally conquer the entire world, right to the very edge.
I mean, can you imagine? Your own dad, who happens to be a king and a legendary warrior, looks you in the eye and basically says, "Son, this whole country, it's not going to be big enough for you." For young Alexander, that wasn't just a pep talk, it was a prophecy, and he spent the rest of his short life making it come true.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? We just stick "the Great" on his name without thinking. But what does that even mean? Is it about how much land he conquered, or his brilliant vision for the future? Or does it include the incredible brutality he was capable of? The thing about Alexander is, there's no simple answer. It's messy, it's complicated, and it's all of those things at once.
So, how do you create a person like Alexander? Well, it's not just one thing. It's more like a perfect storm of ingredients. You've got these two powerful clashing parents, a tutor who is a certified genius, and of course, a foundation of just raw, undeniable talent.
You really have to see the two forces pulling at him. On one shoulder, you've got his dad, Philip, the ultimate pragmatist, who taught him the cold, hard math of war. But on the other shoulder is his mom, Olympias, who whispered in his ear that he wasn't just a prince, he was a demigod, maybe even the son of Zeus. That wild mix created a leader who was both a master strategist and a guy who truly believed he was walking a path laid out by the gods.
Oh, and his tutor? Yeah, that was just some guy named Aristotle. No big deal, right? And Aristotle didn't just teach him dates and facts, he taught him how to think. He gave him a deep appreciation for culture, and maybe most importantly, he got him completely hooked on Homer's Iliad. For Alexander, the hero Achilles wasn't just a character in a book, he was the goal. Alexander literally carried a copy of the book with him everywhere, not just to admire Achilles, but to become even greater.
Okay, so there's this classic story about his horse, Bucephalus, that tells you everything you need to know about him. This horse was wild, nobody could get near it. But Alexander noticed something everyone else missed. The horse was terrified of its own shadow. So what did he do? He didn't use force, he just calmly turned the horse towards the sun so it couldn't see its shadow. And that right there, observe, analyze, and then act, that was his playbook for everything. Use that same insight to take down entire empires.
So his father is assassinated. Suddenly, at just 20 years old, Alexander is king. And he doesn't just inherit a throne, he inherits this absolutely audacious, some would say impossible plan to take on the Persian Empire, which was, only the world's reigning superpower.
And he didn't just fight Persia, he took it apart piece by piece. First, at Granicus, it was a display of pure guts, with Alexander leading the charge himself. Then at Issus, it got personal. He faced off against King Darius, who actually turned and fled the battlefield. And finally, Gaugamela. That was the checkmate. Against a much, much larger army, his tactical genius just shattered them. In 3 major moves, the world's biggest empire was his.
But it wasn't all heroic charges and brilliant battlefield moves. Oh no. See, when the island city of Tyre defied him, thinking they were untouchable out in the sea, Alexander showed a different side. He did something no one thought possible. He built a causeway, a land bridge through the ocean to their walls. The 7-month siege that followed was brutal and showed that when pushed, his determination had a terrifying, ruthless edge.
But here's where the story gets really fascinating and way more complex. Alexander wasn't just in the business of destroying things. He had this vision, something that went way beyond conquest. He actually wanted to create something the world had never seen before.
And this big idea was called Hellenism. Now, it's so important to get this right. This wasn't about making everyone Greek. Not at all. It was about fusion. It was a cultural mashup. Take some Greek philosophy, mix it with Persian government, add in some Eastern traditions. His goal was to create a single, blended, multicultural world. And you have to understand, for the ancient world, this was a completely revolutionary idea.
And he wasn't just talking about it, he was doing it. He founded all these new cities, like the legendary Alexandria in Egypt, designed to be melting pots for ideas and trade. He held the Susa weddings, which is just wild, a massive ceremony where thousands of his soldiers married Persian noblewomen all at once. He even started dressing in Persian clothes and adopting their customs, which, as you can imagine, really freaked out his old-school Macedonian generals.
But you know that old saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely? Well, as Alexander pushed farther and farther east, the pressure of being, well, a living legend started to grind him down. The man he was started to get lost inside the myth he was building.
So let's just pause for a second. Remember that kid? The one who studied philosophy and logic with Aristotle? The one who was supposed to be the ideal philosopher king, ruling with reason and wisdom?
Yeah, then this happened. In a drunken argument, he murdered his friend Cletus the Black. And this wasn't just some soldier. This was the man who had personally saved Alexander's life in battle. In that one horrible moment, you see how far he'd fallen. The student of reason was now being ruled by pure rage.
After that, things started to unravel, and fast. He started demanding that his own Greek and Macedonian soldiers bow down and prostrate themselves before him like you would for a Persian god king. For them, that was blasphemy. Paranoia set in, the drinking got worse, and then finally, in India, at the very edge of the world he'd been chasing, his own army had enough. They mutinied. They just refused to go one step further. The long march home through a deadly desert felt less like a retreat and more like a punishment, and it killed thousands of his loyal.
So he'd reached the end of the world and the end of his army's patience. Alexander made it back to Babylon, the new center of his massive empire. But he would never get the chance to actually rule it.
32. That's it. That's how old he was when he died. It's just a shocking number to think about. He'd conquered the known world before most people even had their careers figured out. His death was just as sudden and dramatic as his life had been.
And to this day, nobody knows for sure how he died. Was it a disease like malaria or typhoid? Totally possible. Or was it something more sinister? Poison? The rumors started swirling immediately, especially since his generals were already sharpening their knives, ready to carve up his empire. It's one of history's greatest cold cases.
And this right here is the central paradox of Alexander the Great. His immediate legacy? Total chaos. The empire he built with a sword fell apart almost instantly as his generals fought over the pieces for decades. But his enduring legacy, that idea of a Hellenistic world, that cultural fusion he started, that lasted for centuries and literally laid the groundwork for the Roman Empire and, in many ways, the modern Western world.
So we come full circle, right back to that question. What does it mean to be great? Is it about what you conquer or what you create? Alexander was a visionary who founded cities of learning, and he was a tyrant who slaughtered thousands. He was a unifier and a destroyer. His story shows us that maybe greatness isn't about being good or bad. Maybe it's just about the size of the mark you leave on the world.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, support the journey by pressing like and subscribe for more powerful stories like this. And if you have questions, leave them in the comments below.